We're here at the Philly Film Society Spring Fest with Daveed Diggs and Rafael Casal with their movie Blindspotting. And the reviewer for Variety ends his piece with Blindspotting encourages audiences to look beyond surface prejudices and really see their fellow citizens for the first time. If ever there was a film to open America's eyes, this is it. How do you feel about such a lofty statement and goal for your film?
Well, she had liked the movie.
I wish we did. I just don't think you had to write that critically about it. I mean, like, let people make up their own minds.
Does it put a lot of pressure?
Well, it doesn't matter.
The movie's done.
True.
So if you, we're very happy that that review is obviously. It also did a lot of mentioning us in the same breath as some of our favorite films, Do the Right Thing, and so I think we're happy that people are taking those kinds of things away from it. But I think most importantly, it's a story. It's like an honest story about people living in a community that tries very hard to really be specific about that community. So we wrote our film about Oakland, but you will recognize yourself in it if you're from Philadelphia. It's about communities in flux, and this is another one of those. So I think hopefully there's something really in it for Philadelphia audiences.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure. Thank you. We're glad you're here in Philly.
Thank you.
Song has E40 on it. He's my favorite rapper.
We got to do a song for you.
That happened actually the last day of editing. We've been asking for this song for a long time. It never came, and we were printing the final edit, and he sent his verse. And we were like, well, it's going to cost $10,000 to open up the edit. Are we doing it? Absolutely.
Sitting at my house trying to mix the song with my headphones, sending it to Paramount, like, place this at the end, please.
So I just want to start kind of simply, like, what was the genesis of the project? Because you guys, were writers on it. Were you always intending to star in it? Where did you come from?
Yes, the prompt was it's got to have verse. It's going to be about Oakland, and it's going to star us because we didn't know if anyone else would ever put us in a movie. So.
Yeah, I started. The process started about 9 years ago. Justin Keith called the producers on the project with us. Reached out to me via YouTube from a poetry video that I had online and said, hey, we think this kind of language will work really well in film. Are you at all interested in writing film? I was like, yeah, I'm interested. It's not exactly a normal question that slides in your DMs, So we were like, yeah, sure. We kept talking about it for a while, and we started collaborating. And then I was supposed to do this show in DC with them for the opening of one of their other films, and I couldn't make it. And I was like, well, my friend Daveed is there. He's a really good rapper. He's not going to do a poem for you, but I'll probably spit some poems. And he did. But they hit it off, and then we all realized, well, we should probably all just do a project together. And
this was also at Obama's first inauguration.
Yeah.
He's buried the lead there. That's what this performance was. It was like at a screening they were having tied into all of the inauguration events in DC, which is why I was going to be there.
Yeah, and then that was 8 years ago or something like that. And we started writing the script then, and we had a bunch of almost making it moments. And then this last spring seemed like the right time to do it.
Did you always know, what did you know you wanted to make it about? I mean, you had those three conditions, but what did you know you wanted to make the film about from the beginning?
Well, early on, Oscar Grant was killed pretty early on in our writing process, so those issues came up. We always came back to this is a film that has to represent the Oakland that we know on film. We've never seen that done before in a way that made sense to us. So it was. So that was like whenever we were wondering if we were doing something right. That's what we kept going back to. Well, does it feel honest? Does that actually feel like home? And so because that became part of the discussion so prevalently when we started it, then that's one of the reasons that was initially the impetus for this film for Colin's instigating incident. But I think what's interesting is how the conversation has changed over time with regards to those things. So when we started, everybody in Oakland was talking about Oscar Grant. His name was said, and his picture was on everybody's T-shirt, and and the film we wrote originally was very much about a police shooting and about the specific victim. And the spectacle that came around it. You know, the way at that time there were so many more protests around these incidents, and they're like kind of happen over time as it's in such abundance now that by the time you even think to organize something about this shooting, there's another one, and we can't keep track. So in this film you see, like, it just goes away so fast. It's the inciting sort of moment of the film that it only sticks with Colin, which is that's the unfortunate part of the prompt, right? Is that, like, the movie just got more relevant to make as time went on, and we sort of hoped it would be the opposite.
And kind of adding on that, a lot has been made already, and the movie's not even out, about comparisons to something like Do the Right Thing. And you know, you can say a lot about thematically how it fits, but to me, what I take away from that is this, you know, the movie's in a way a collection of stories, and there's a lot of different incidents that happen to you guys throughout the course of it, but it's a collection of different stories that build up the thing. And did you always know, and then these kind of two very prevalent climaxes at the end, the one in the parking lot between you two and then the scene with Ethan at the end. And did you always know, did you kind of work backwards from there, or were you kind of throwing the stories in as you were writing?
Yeah, I mean, those two moments are the oldest thing in the film. So that nigga conversation came about in like a fever dream of Rafa's one night, where he like called me at like 4 in the morning, like, I got it.
This is gonna be the most important thing in cinema. Read it, call me back.
I was like, what? Who are you? He was like working at the University of Madison at the time, like, and he called me and sent me this thing, and I sort of was like, oh, my friend's an asshole and he's crazy, and then I started reading and was like, oh shit, and I called him back. And we sort of spiraled down that rabbit hole and pretty much that scene, I mean, the version of that scene that we shot was twice as long.
More. It's like a 9-minute scene that's all one take. When we cut it down to 2:40.
Yeah, thank God.
God.
But Carlos made us run it all the way through. We never broke it up to shoot it. So we were doing this 9-minute thing. We did it. We said we'll do this 8 times, and he made us do it 12 times. But so you know, that was in there for a long time. And that final scene was really, Rafa had written most of those bars as like a placeholder, and we kept, in all of our conversations about the film, we would like get to the end, there was so, you know, final, like, it's just like, all right, we know this is happening here, this is a placeholder, you'll go over it, you know, like, you'll like really digs it up, and do the whole thing. And we got like a week away from shooting, and I read the thing probably for real for the first time in years. And I was like, this shit's really good, man. I don't think I'm gonna change any of this. All I want to do is add like 4 bars right here in the middle just because I have a rhythmic idea I wanted to try out. But other than that, that writing has pretty much stayed the same for 7 years or something like that. So yes, we were sort of working our way back. We knew that those two things were in the film, so how do we justify those moments in a comedy?
Yeah. And then when did Carlos get involved? How did that kind of come about?
Carlos really got suckered into this.
Yeah. It was a trick.
Yeah. Jess and Keith, our producers, flew to New York to sit with me and see if there was any way to make this film happen. We sort of started talking about it last year at the beginning of March, and our only chance to shoot it was 22 days in June. It's the only 22 days that Diggs had open in his schedule to do a long shoot like that. And we had a draft of the script that was 3 years old. And so they were sitting down and they were like, is there any world where this can happen in that amount of time? I was like, yeah. And they were like, well, do you want to direct, or is there somebody that you want to direct? I was like, well, we've never even done that amount of acting before. So we'll start there, and we're going to produce it and write it. But let's bring on a director that we trust. And Carlos was waiting at a cafe like a block away to meet with me for something totally unrelated for the BARS program in New York. BARS is BARS over here. And y'all better be turning into some submissions next week. And Carlos was waiting to talk to us about that project, and I was just like, why don't we just come and we'll go sit down with Carlos and see if he wants to do it. And we just like left the restaurant and went landed on Carlos and just like sat down next to him. And my first words were, hey man, you want to write this movie we're doing? And he just said yes, without any context of what the film was about. And we pitched it to him. I pitched it to him on the way to the train, and he read the old draft later that night. And then I think 2 days later, we were in LA doing rewrites for the next month.
It's amazing because he has such an assured hand of direction for a first feature, for somebody who just kind of jumped on it with no, you know.
Yeah, you got to give it up to Robbie Baumgartner, who's here. Our DP is here. Robbie. Robbie shot the shit out of his movie.
But I don't know, you can speak on that relationship better than we can, but I feel like, you know, so many of I would drop in on their conversations sometimes, and it's Robbie pretty much being like, well, that's not really possible, and Carlos being like, yeah, but this is how we have to do it. And Robbie like, oh, fucking okay, all right.
Hang this shit up there, let's roll.
But his team was incredible and made a lot of impossible shit happen, and I think the sort of cooperation that they have of somebody who really knows how to make movies work and make them beautiful, and somebody who was stubborn enough to say, I really need it to happen like this, and then, you know, Robbie sort of also being a genius and being like, okay, well, if we need it to happen like this, then we're gonna figure it out, was kind of like a magic thing. As soon as I started seeing daily, you know, and I like to watch myself, so I would watch like little tiny seconds of things. But every time I saw something, I was just like, Jesus Christ, this looks so good. Like, it looked so much better than the vision of it in my head was. You know?
I'm gonna open it up to the audience, but before I do, I just want to ask you guys: are you gonna keep making more movies? Are you gonna keep making more movies with Verse?
We're not even friends anymore. It's over.
This is a contractual obligation.
Yeah.
Once this
tour, I'll never. I put coffee in my whiskey, guys. I am done.
All right, let's open it up. Anybody got a question? Right here.
Just a quickie. I love the film, and also the explanation of Blindspotting by the lady student in there. But how did you folks see Blindspotting in the movie itself? What were the intricacies there, and what was the blind spot that you saw?
So I'll repeat it just from the back of the room. The question was about, there's the explanation of Blindspotting in the script, but how do you see, like, what are the other incidents and intricacies of Blindspotting that are contained within the film?
So everybody in the film is dealing with a blind spot, right? Everyone's sort of struggling with both how they see and how they are seen. So that's kind of the problematic thing that raises its head in almost all of the relationships, right? And Janina and Collins is a really clear one of that, right? And Colin asks her the question at the end, like, when you look at me now, do you just see the fight? And she can't answer no. You know, do you always see the fight first? And she can't answer no to that, which is it breaks his heart, you know, because he hopes, he wants, he's trying so hard to outrun that thing, and he knows that the rest of the world sees him like that. And here's the person who he loves the most, who he's been trying to change the most for, and she can't unsee that, and that is like a devastating thing. For Colin, right? And so there are other versions of that relationship popping up all over the film, and you know, Miles and Colin's relationship diverges because of how other people are seeing them, because the outside world is telling them something different than they know to be true, and they've never had to really sit down and process that before and figure out where they stand in everyone else's blind spots. You know, so this idea of blindspotting, I think, comes up in a number of different ways, and that's why I think it took a long time for us to actually pull the trigger on calling the film back. We were looking for another title, but that explanation ended up summing up so many of the things that happened in it that it ended up being a title.
Right here.
This is a quintessentially hip-hop film. Obviously, white folks in the audience know this. Talk about...
Or black folks who don't listen to hip-hop. Like me.
Can you talk about, like a little bit about using like hip-hop as a vehicle and for talking, just, bringing it to narrative, and like how in this particular time we seem to be moving away from hip-hop
So the question was about the decision making around using hip hop as a vehicle to tell this narrative.
Well, I think for us, we were really interested in trying to, if you're from the Bay, or if you've ever been from the Bay, you know that the way we use language is sort of very important to us. And it's not just in the music. The music is an expression, is a popularized expression of the way that people speak all the time. There's constantly like new language being introduced. There's a certain bounce and a certain rhythm to the way that people talk. And we were trying to figure out a way to capture that in a way that felt natural. So like, people are speaking in verse all the time out there, but that it's just the way that we talk. And we're both so fascinated by, you know, the regional differences in speech and sort of the beauty with which slang is introduced into the world, and sort of the virtuosity of that, and how kind of what sort of an impressive thing it is. If we were studying it in college, it would be like really upper level shit, but it just happens on the street, right? And so, so like that scene, the sort of baseline scene where Cuddy drives up and they have the deal for the boat, right? Is it's really, I agree.
You're welcome.
But that was how we wanted to introduce heightened language in this thing, was as Miles and Colin are not aspiring rappers. They have no musical inclination at all. Poetry, metaphor, is how they deal with shit. It's how they make sense of big ideas, which is how most of us do it, actually. When you can't, when something takes too many words to explain directly, you come up with a metaphor for it. That's what Blindspotting is.
It's also like a stacking, there's a stacking going on throughout the film, right? There's a lot of very literal moments where verse is being used, and there's ones that are a little bit more subtle, like the entire barbershop, the beauty salon scene rhymes, the whole thing. That slang scene is all heightened language, and all of those are informing how Colin can get to the point at the end, right? That's where Miles introduces this idea that if you make things sound pretty, it's easier to process. And the salesmanship that Miles is doing is selling an idea to a room full of people, right? And so when the movie starts, you got Miles in college just kind of freestyling with not a ton of tact. And then this building blocks process comes along to finally get to that point at the end, right? So we're watching hip hop do what it does in real time. You take the shit from your life, you find a way to package it in a way that people will listen to you, in a way that your audience can understand you, and you execute it at the proper time. You know what I mean? Like, that's hip hop as a genre of music, as a dance form, all that can evolve. But the way in which we communicate, the way in which we take things from our lives, from our struggles and controversies and dilemmas and whatever, and package them in a way that we can get it out to other people so they can identify with it. To me, that's the most hip hop shit about the film.
Yeah. And we, you know, Philly is a poetry town. What up? But Philly's a poetry town like Oakland is a poetry town, you understand? So if your kids here we grew up going to poetry slams like you go to basketball games, you understand? So it's like it's in the blood of the place, and because of, you know, the reason you teach poetry to kids, we both came up through Youth Speaks, the reason you do that is because no one gives a fuck what a kid has to say unless you make it sound pretty. So like, Miles' advice that Colin takes to heart, make it sound pretty, is the bounce of it. Like that's the realest shit. That's Mark Joseph. That's our mentor teaching us that at 14 years old. You know what I'm saying?